Welcome back to another episode of Import and Modify. On this episode, we're going to be working on my Honda RC51. I was doing a time-lapse video of me taking off the fairings, and somehow the file corrupted. Every time I do time-lapse or try to do time-lapse with this old GoPro, it gives me issues. I still haven't figured it out yet. So all the work up to this point, I couldn't get the editing to work on it, so we're starting all over. I apologize. I was gonna have a really cool time lapse of me taking the fairings off, but it just didn't work out. I am saving up money for a new GoPro, so once that comes in, hopefully I'll be able to do time lapse and all that. And that's the reason why a lot of my videos don't have time lapse, because whenever I go to edit the files, it just shows me a bunch of pictures in sequence, and I just can't get it to work for some reason. I don't know what the deal is. But anyway, we're going to be working on this RC51, and you can see I already got all the fairings off, and I always do this to all my new bikes that I get. And the reason being is it allows me to see the work of the previous owner, and also I can clean the bike thoroughly, go through it, and I'll know exactly what I have going on with this bike. Now, one of the things that I really can't stand on this motorcycle is to have some funky late 90s security system, and it's all this extra wiring here, and you know, it's got it all over the place. It's zip tied for the loudspeakers and everything, and I don't like the wiring they've done to the undertail for the lights, so I'm gonna fix those and put connectors on there, so when I have to remove it, I'm not gonna have all these splicing. Oh, excuse me, I was drinking NOS. Makes me burp. But it's gonna give me a chance to clean all this up right here, and they have this wooden bracket they had holding it up, but I really wanted to go through it all, make sure I don't have any leaks. I'm gonna do, you know, a bunch of different just basically going through the whole motorcycle and maintaining everything. I'm gonna, you know, flush the coolant system, do a brake bleed all the way around. I also wanted to see if I had K&N filters, which I got to that point, and I do have just factory OEM air filters in there. I do want to add K&N filters to this. And just to give you a little history of this bike has been on my bucket list to own for quite some time now, and it wasn't until recently I was able to find one at an affordable price, and I jumped on it and got it. And there's some things on it that I don't like on the fairings. They have these vinyl highlighted stripes they put on the Honda wings, I guess just to make it pop. I guess, you know, that'd have been cool back in the day, but really I don't like them. They're all sun faded, so I'm gonna take those highlighted vinyl stripes off of the fairings. It'd be a lot easier with them off, so I have it all off. And one of the design flaws that I don't like on the bike was the way that the fuel pump was set up. They don't have quick connects like a lot of the modern bikes have. They just have it connected with the banjo bolt here and the return line. You know, I pulled that off, and of course gasoline was spilling out all over the place, and I had to get a hose and run it into a gas can to catch it all. But I'm gonna remove this air box so that I can look at the valve covers on the front end of the engine. And this is a 1000 cc V-twin, a 2-cylinder V-twin. And just to give you a little history about the motorcycle, Honda made this bike when Ducatis were dominant in the racing game. So they decided to go with their own little V-twin design to compete against the Ducatis. So they came up with this formula, and they came out with the RC51, and they basically beat Ducati at their game. Colin Edwards won the World Championship in World Superbike on this, and Nicky Hayden The first year that this was released, he placed, I think, second in the AMA championship, and the second year he won the championship on this motorcycle. So it has a lot of racing heritage. And just to show the racing heritage of the motorcycles, the stock clip-ons, they sit really low, and that shows how much of a race design that they started with from the ground up on these things. Another cool feature on the motorcycle I like as well is the gauge layout. The gauge layout reminds me of a Honda S2000, and I do believe that Honda used this design in their Roadster. A lot of people back in the day were ranting and raving about the layout of the gauges, and to this day I really like the layout of the gauges. But you know, I kind of lucked out that it came with steel braided brake lines front and rear, and also it has a steel braided clutch line. I upgraded on the last episode. If you watched, you saw me upgrade the brake levers to the billet ones, so it's a good start. I am going to need to go through the bike more in the future, and the seals seem good on it, but I'm going to just put new seals in it and add new fluid to the forks, because I'm sure that it's the same fluid in those forks since 2000. And this one right here is a 2000 model. It's a SP1. 2002 they came out with an SP2, and basically the bike went on a diet. It lost 4 pounds and it gained 4 horsepower. And the way that they did that was through a new airbox design with bigger throttle bodies and a 12 pinhole injectors set up. These have smaller throttle bodies, but the injectors are 2 pinhole. Now I do have a power commander on the motorcycle. I'm gonna keep my eyes out for the newer SP2 injectors. I'd like to upgrade to those. I believe they're the same CC. It's just that it gets rid of that on-off feel from the throttle response, and since I have a power commander, we can take care of the tuning and all that on it. And so that was a win right here, me having a power commander. My old laptop still has the files for power commander. I can tune the bike later on, but I'm sure the guy told me it was just a base map that was on the website that's loaded on the bike. So I haven't ridden the bike much. I bought it, I took it for a spin around the block, and it ran great, it sounded great, and I really like the V-twin rumble. It's my first V-twin sport bike that I've ever owned, so I bought it to mess around on the street and also do an occasional track day. So I will eventually get me some race fairings and stuff and take it to the track. Now I have track dedicated motorcycles back there, and you know, I used to go to the track all the time. I used to race all the time, and now I don't get the opportunity as much to do so, but I still do that. And if you guys would like to see me ripping around the track over in Crescent Motorsports Ranch, check out episode 19. It shows me hauling ass on my GSXR 600 track weapon I got here. It's an 07. This thing's pretty tricked out. I got Öhlins suspension, Bazass, fuel management, quick shifter, traction control. I mean, this thing it's well equipped, and I got good footage of me hauling ass around Crescent Motorsports Ranch on that. This motorcycle right here is the bike I started on, 97 GSXR 600. You know, I've crashed this thing a couple times. I've rebuilt it. I also have 2 episodes of me totally tearing this bike down and putting it back together, changing the frame out because I bent it in a crash. But that's pretty much what we got going on this episode. And I'm still waiting to recoup more money for the E46 project. I have a little bit of a side job that I took on is just to help with funds on this. So I'll be knocking that out over the weekend, and I'll be having money pretty soon for the exhaust and the drive shaft. So more to come on that. Stay tuned. So without further ado, first of all though, before I get started, I want to thank all my new subscribers for subscribing to the channel. I thank you for watching, and just to give you a little idea of what we got going on in the near future, I have a Z32 300Z, and I have a Skyline motor back there. I've been collecting parts over time to get this thing going. Now I'm having a little bit of a title issue right now on it. I'm going to get that straightened out, and once I have that title signed in my name, I'll just start hammering away on this. This Datsun here is a customer's vehicle. I'm still waiting on payments on that, so this is on hold for now. But there is more cool stuff to come on this. But enough ranting and raving. Let's go ahead and start this thing. We're gonna go ahead and take off the air box and see if we have any leaks underneath. I just started by removing the air filter. It's just the fastener back here, and you pry it out, and then it exposes the air box. After that, we're going to remove the two fasteners right here on the velocity stacks. And I do believe that that's all it takes to take the air box out. So this is my first time tearing this bike down, so we'll see how it goes. It's going to be trial and error from here. So let's go ahead and get the other one out. So as you can tell, these air filters, they're pretty new. They've been replaced recently, so these are good for now. But I do want to eventually upgrade to some K&N filters, so in the near future we're going to be doing that. And I just removed the velocity stack on the rear. It was just those two fasteners. I was able to get to this fastener right here, and then I was looking at the fastener in the corner wondering how I was going to get that. But then I noticed on top here there was a kind of a cap, so I unscrewed it and exposed a hole, and that allows me to get my screwdriver down into that area to get that velocity stack unbolted. So let's go ahead and do that. So I have hoses on the bottom of this air box right here, and looks like one goes to the cylinder head right there. And then I have a catch can right here, and I have a clamp right there. So I'm gonna unbolt that clamp right here, push that off, and see how much I can free this thing up. I also had to unclip the throttle adjustment screw or cable, and I'm just trying to peel back the layers of the onion to see how much I gotta take off to get this thing freed up. I mean, it's real compact in there, so let's go ahead and take that off, and then we'll see what we gotta do after that to get it. It's coming up though, so we'll see. So I finally got it out. It wasn't that bad. I just had two hoses right here, down right here, if you can see them, 1 and 2, and I had to undo the catch can down here below and undo the velocity stacks like you saw, and I was able to kind of fish it out, pulling backwards and up. That freed it up. So now that we have it free, gives me a good look right here. I don't see any leaks, just dirty. And right here would be where the thermostat sits, right here. Here's your throttle, your throttles, your injectors, right here, and of course your fuel rail. So it's pretty compact design. That's what you would expect from a sport bike. But now it's going to give me a chance as well to clean all this up. I'll put, you know, I'll block these off and make sure no water gets on them whenever I go pressure wash this, because that's what I'm going to end up doing, is just pressure washing the whole bike clean. So whenever I do put the fairings and everything back on, we're going to start with a fresh, clean bike. But yeah, not too bad. This right here is your coil pack for the cylinders, the spark plugs. I got new spark plugs as well, and that's where it goes. Spark plug down in there, and the other spark plug, see how we're gonna get to that. Looks like I'll probably have to remove the oil cooler to get to the spark plug in the front. But yep, that's something else we're gonna have to do. But right now, I got this off. I got to that point. We're good on this. So before I even do anything more to this motorcycle, I need to get me some new fluids and stuff like that. And I don't know, I may or may not take off the throttle bodies yet. I don't know, I'm not sure yet. But I also noticed that I have aftermarket gearing on it. It is 520. It is a steel, looks like a steel sprocket. So I'm gonna end up, wonder if that, well, I don't know. It is 520, 5032. I don't know. I have to count the teeth on a sprocket to see actually what we have, and I also need to remove this cover. Excuse me. I'm gonna have to remove this cover here in the near future, and see what the gearing is on this bike, because the factory gearing on this is pretty tall, and you can't even max out 6th gear with the gearing from the factory. So we're going to shorten up the gearing. It'll allow the bike to accelerate quicker, and also we'll be able to max out the top speed on this thing with better sprockets. So I'm curious to see what the gear ratio is on this bike, but I don't have enough time for this video to do that. So now that I got the bike torn down for the most part, I guess I'm going to start on the fairings. I'm going to start getting my heat gun and see about getting these stripes off and see how difficult that's going to be. Hopefully it's not going to be too hard. So let me get my heat gun and we'll get started on that. Alright, I got the heat gun now. I got me a razor blade, and I plan on just heating this up a little bit using the razor blade and seeing how easy I can get these off. I don't know exactly how easy or rough it's gonna be, but let's go ahead and give it a try. Alright, I got it all stripped down. Don't look like much, but enough to make it look ugly. Here's what it looks like now. I got them all off the gas tank, got them all off the fairings. Little corner sticker that was on the front cowling. Got the rear fairings and the cap all stripped off. So now it looks like good factory fairings now. I'll just have to clean them up and give them a good wash whenever I do the motorcycle, but we still got a little bit of time. I'm gonna go ahead now and start ripping out some of this electrical and see exactly how this theft system is wired in, and if it's pretty easy to undo, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and start that now. So this is what I pulled out of the rear end of it for the theft system. As you can tell, it's quite a bit of pieces in there, and then also the way that they had it all wired in was really amateur. Not even amateur, I'd call it beginner novice, the way they had all this wired in and just tucked in. They didn't even take the time for the wiring on the tail lights. It's all just a spool of wire. They just threw it all in there. Everything's kind of butt spliced in, and stuff like that. I'm definitely going to clean this up and make it look more professional. I like to do solder connections whenever there is splicing or needing to attach wires. I like to solder in wires and heat shrink them, and I like to use connectors as well. This is definitely a no-go. Also, in the future, I'm gonna do a reverse shift pattern on this bike because I'm used to doing that for racing. All my bikes are reverse shift pattern, and I'm gonna get the kit for that. And to run a shift pattern on a Power Commander 3, I believe you need the ignition module if my memory serves me correctly. Now I do have a quick shifter sensor in my boxes over there, and I need to dig that out and see if it's a push or a pull type and see exactly what type I need for this configuration, because I'm gonna get me a set of aftermarket rear sets and just, you know, just clean everything up and just make it my own. That's the whole idea of doing all this. Allow me to clean it, flush all the fluids, fix the wiring. Now the fairings are fixed with the striping gone and everything. I can wash those up, make them look real nice, and just put it back together. Another thing I don't really care for is this exhaust on it. I'm still on the fence whether I want to go single exhaust or keep it dual exhaust. We'll see. If I want to do a single exhaust, I'll probably end up modifying that header and just run a single, but I'll have to do more research on that and just look around and see what type of dual exhaust systems, what kind of dual exhaust systems are out there on the market, and if I like any of them. I like my exhausts to be more high mounted. It just gives it more of that race look, and this exhaust, it definitely looks like, you know, the early 2000s style kind of a motorcycle. I like to give it more of a modern look. And in the near future, I also want to change the color of the wheels. I don't dig the red rims like that, but excuse me real quick. I'm not sure about the color of the wheels that I want to go, but I'm definitely going to change the color of the rims, and I know a good powder coater, so probably here in the near future I want to change these colors on these wheels just to give it more of a flair. And also, yeah, I'm just going to keep it on the low budget. Alright, so we made good progress this afternoon. I only had a couple hours to come in and knock this out, so I'm definitely happy with the time I had. I did quite a bit for just a little bit of time that I was here. Those fairings, they look a hell of a lot better now. I can clean those up whenever I get the bike all cleaned up and the wiring fixed on that thing. We'll go ahead and slap that all back together. I'm still not sure about that undertail. I'm not digging the turn signals on it. Kind of looks dated. I think I'm eventually going to get the one with just the turn signals and it's clean underneath it, and install it with the integrator kit that allows the tail lights to be used as the blinkers. But other than that, I think I am at a good stopping point for this video. I'd like to thank all you new subscribers for subscribing and checking me out. Definitely more to come, definitely a lot of things to be done. We're still waiting on a little bit of money for the E46 project, which I have that in the works. We're going to be having parts for that pretty soon, and then once I get that caught up and running, I will be shooting a video on that as well to see the acceleration and stuff like that, so you guys can also get a feel of how it performs, because I'm just as curious as you. The reviews that I read about the S54 and the power numbers, they seem very good for this car, and being that I shaved a lot of weight, I'm very curious to see how fast this thing's going to accelerate and handle, so stay tuned for that. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode so you guys know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.